Nestled on the western edge of Port Phillip Bay, an hour and a half's drive from the deadly intrigues of Melbourne, lies Gateway City, the hub of the region, G-Town. For the last 4 decades, an uneasy peace has existed between the Anarchs and Camarilla in G-Town, their borders meeting on Bruce Street in the very centre of the city. The two sects divide the domain neatly in two. The native Anarchs, consolidated in the industrial north, have learned to tolerate Prince Aveline and her Camarilla invaders, and she in turn grants all Anarchs the right to hunt and conduct business in her waterfront domain. Anarch rabble-rousers and Camarilla traditionalists each afford their counterparts a reluctant respect. Until now. Word from Melbourne has reached the kindred of G-Town. Prince Squizzy wages a war on 3 fronts against a newly reorganised Anarch faction, Sabbat infiltrators, and the onslaught of the Second Inquisition. As refugees from both sects flood into Gateway to escape the oncoming chaos, local tensions flare, and the truce that has maintained peace since 1983 will be pushed to its limits. Welcome to Lords of G-Town, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat Podcast, with music by Kevin MacLeod, White Bat Audio, Ivan Duch, and Jaxius Music. Now, as the sun sets on the city and the blood stirs, let's see what horrors the kindred face this night. Welcome back, everyone, to Lords of G-Town. Tonight, the hammer falls, and who it strikes depends on how well you've been investigating, which leads you've chosen to follow, and, as these things always go, a healthy dose of luck. It is night number 3 of our investigation. January 3rd, 6:59 p.m. You wake up. This is it. Your last night. You need to solve the case. Find evidence of Barry Jr.'s wrongdoing by sundown tomorrow, or your goose is cooked. Elvis, or rather Henry, is still the talk of the town. It's not the first grisly murder G-Town has seen, but it's the first one where the victim's wearing a rhinestone-studded jumpsuit. A local fitness guru and social media influencer called April Power has taken to Instagram to capitalise on the trend. She looks awfully familiar, but you can't put your finger on why. A weirdly high number of people have decided to dress like Elvis for their night on the town tonight. Just as many people have decided to dress as vampires. Some are vampire Elvises. As the blood begins to circulate through your torpid blood vessels and rouse you from the day slumber, I'd like everybody to make a rouse check, please, to see if you awaken any hungrier.
Cross gets hungrier.
Cross is up to hunger too.
Val had good dreams, and she woke up feeling very refreshed and not hungry.
Lovely. Pig awakens hungrier. Mitch is fine. And Bouncer.
Ooh, there's a failure, so I awaken at hunger 5.
Holy shit! Oh no!
Ooh.
Oh, that's really good for Bouncer too.
To Bouncer. Oh, she's Describe your haven for me, Bouncer, please.
It's a fairly simple, fairly cheap, just apartment room. Minimal windows, so it's easy to keep the sun out.
Yeah, only one window, the one in the kitchen. It's boarded up with particle board and thick drapes over it. And as you awaken in your double bed shoved off in the corner of the loft, you realise that the bed covers have been not just tossed off the bed, but in some pre-awakening pseudo-frenzy, you've torn the bed sheets and the duvet to shreds, pieces of cotton and fabric lying in tatters at your feet. Your dead heart is pounding. Or it feels like it's pounding. In reality, it's your beast rattling against the bars of its cage, screaming at you in a cross between animalistic predatory roars and utterly anguished, tortured cries of pain as it demands that you feed almost immediately, demands you to find someone, find a pig, a man, a woman, it doesn't matter, find them and tear them to shreds, tear them apart, dash their heads on the footpath and spill their blood like you did with the bedclothes. You are quite hungry, Bouncer. It's been quite some time since you've been this hungry, and in addition to the hunger, you still have the images of what happened to poor Lisa in the back of your mind. And the hunger and the nascent rage are beginning to fuse into one, and you can feel frenzy beginning to bubble away in the cauldron inside you. It's about to boil over, unless you take care of it right now. Or you could do something that Sam Stokes told you to never, ever try to do, and that is stave off the hunger as long as you can. Try to be productive for tonight and see how far you get. Either way, there's only a few leads left for the coterie to investigate. The previous night, Bouncer volunteered to go and pay the local Brewha, the Waste Workers Union as they're known, a visit, with Tig accompanying her. And this left only two other leads to follow. The first, to pay a visit to Dr. White's Tuck and Tweak Plastic Surgery, the place where Henry had all of his work done to make him resemble Elvis. The other lead is to visit the gallery reps, the Setites down on the waterfront, and see what their role in this whole mess is, what players they have in the game. But you have to wait for Sam to broker a meeting first. So that one's off the table for now. However, another lead has opened up. April Power, the Insta personality whose face is all over your social media feeds. She's capitalizing on this whole Elvis vampire murder, shilling her videos about something she calls blood cleansing, blood facials, vampire-themed health and fitness. And there is something incredibly familiar about her. And Valerie, as you gather your gather up your handbag and your notepad and prepare to head out into the city, you're the first one who clues on. April Power. You have a memory for faces. You never forget who you've spoken to. And she was there. She was there 20 years ago at Sip Sip Hooray. Just April then, snapping photos of the night's festivities. Bouncer, you'd remember her too. You're the one who actually spoke to her. But that realization is currently out of reach for you, being held hostage by your beast as it demands to be fed. So, here's the question. As you all awaken, make arrangements to meet each other, catch each other up on what you discovered last night, and plan your moves for the evening, what would you like to do?
Val's inclination would be to have a quick get-together. Maybe somewhere nice, where they could share a drink of some kind. Just kind of plan out the rest of the evening, because it's going to be an important one. Probably the most important one.
Yeah, the last one you've got, so good chance to sit down, make sure you're not missing anything. So, you all receive a message from Valerie. And Valerie, is there a particular place, particular haunt of yours that you'd like to meet people at?
Absolutely. There's this lovely little bougie place over in the inner suburbs, just on the outskirts of the city. They serve coffee at all times of day and all times of night, as well as way too expensive wine and top shelf brews. There's always a little table in the back where you can get personal service.
Simply known as The Place, situated right there on the edge of Chilwell and Thompson, right on the edge of the Barwon River, offering a lovely nighttime view of the water as you sit down and enjoy some intimate drinks with friends. It's right in the midst of Cam territory. Not a problem for Mitch or indeed for Valerie. In fact, Mitch, it's only a short 5-minute drive down the road from G-Town University. Right there in Thompson. And you've met with Valerie here several times. Bouncer and Tig, however, died in the Wool Anarchs. Well, Tig, for his part, doesn't really know how to reply with a message stating, "No way I'd be caught dead there." So he has no choice but to turn up. Wouldn't be the first time someone's cajoled him or taken advantage of his lack of knowledge of the city's politics to have him meet them in Cam territory. But Bouncer, this is Cam territory. You're sure you'll be able to hunt there, but do you really want to at this level of hunger?
Oh, and you know that if you rock up to this place and go to the front door on the brink of frenzy, Val would never forgive you.
Just gonna remind you of what happened in the last campaign when I had 3 hunger. We rocked up somewhere.
Yeah, went to a New Year's party.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
No, yeah. Bouncer's first inclination is to, like, hunt. So, like, yeah, Val just gets a message back of, like, be there in a bit.
Be there in a bit. And
Remarkably composed, considering.
Yeah, remarkable. Well, it's not so much composed as it is succinct. Literally just saying, be there in a bit.
Yeah.
Usually, knowing Bouncer, there'd be some swears thrown in, some emojis, maybe a gif or two. This tells you that something's eating her. Most likely the fact that she needs to hunt, or beat some poor punk to a pulp to take out her anger over finding Lisa in the state that she did. Cross, the place is not your kind of place. Will you be responding to Valerie's summons?
Cross will respond. What do you need me for?
Val will text back. Tonight is the most vital night. We need everyone, including your talents.
Okay. Cross's response there would just be to, chin up and deal with it. Because, it doesn't really care about this, but it doesn't want to, get in more shit with its sire. So it'll head over, but it'll be, just doing a cause.
So you have no particular enthusiasm for going there, but you got to work with the coterie. Your sire's orders. You don't want to make Mort angry with you. So you summon an Uber. Same driver from last night. Picks you up about a block away from your warehouse haven. And your journey to the place is made accompanied by the same Bollywood pop from last night. Bouncer, your predator type is Siren, I believe.
Yep.
Do you have a particular place that you like to go to hunt? Or do you just generally hit the clubs, hit the town, see what catches your attention?
My first inclination was to be like an opposing club or something.
Yeah. You've got a rule.
I want to cause trouble at my place. Yeah.
You've got a rule. Never, ever at Club Violet. Melissa would have your head if you hunted there, if you drank from her clientele. And as you're a Bruja, your feedings have known to make a mess sometimes. So, doing your very best to keep the beast at bay, gritting your teeth, flexing your fingers, occasionally punching a brick wall, you make your way downtown and hit up one of the clubs on your list. One of the competitors that Melissa has told you is fair game. Tonight's target is Neptune's Domain, a rather gaudy place on the end of a boardwalk, out on Cowie's Bay. It's dressed up in faux Greek marble and pillars, and as you step in, there's a big statue of Poseidon brandishing his trident. The fact that there's a statue of Poseidon and it's called Neptune's Domain should give anyone who knows anything about Greek or Roman mythology everything they need to know about just how cheap and sleazy this place is. But at this time of night, early, not yet past 8 PM, it's already packed. The music is swelling. The same music they play in Club Violet, but through a markedly inferior sound system. And doing a quick scan over the people on the dance floor, you see several suitable potential targets. Go ahead for me and roll Charisma plus Subterfuge. And you may add the looks merit as bonus die if you have it.
Wait, I do. Charisma, Subterfuge. Would my seduction specialty apply to this, or is it?
Indeed it does, yeah. Because I guess that's what you're trying to do.
Okay.
So, go ahead, tell me how many successes.
I'm just working out what my pool is at the moment.
Ah, yes, creating the pool. Hunger 5. This could be messy.
Yeah. Ooh, 4 successes.
4 successes. So, usually you'd take the time to feel out each person, get the vibes of each one, and carefully weigh up your choices, but the beast is impatient, keeps calling upon you to just pick one, pick anyone here, and scatter them over the dance floor. So you saddle up to the closest sleazy-looking man, the first one you see, a guy wearing a bright purple satin shirt, the buttons undone about halfway, revealing a very hairy, olive-skinned chest underneath. He smiles, flashing a row of perfect, bright white teeth at you and winks. He introduces himself as Dev, and he tells you he's got the moves. You humour him for a bit, but then you find small talk growing increasingly harder. The impatience starts to wear on you, and you're almost on the verge of letting the beast take over. You force it back at the last moment. Cut Dev off mid-sentence as he starts to tell you about his collection of cars, top-quality sports cars, and he has one for every day of the week. He asks you if you've heard of Andrew Tate before, and that's when you lean in and wink at him. And perhaps a bit more forward than usual, quite openly proposition him, "Hey, let's get out of this stump. I got a room just down the road. Maybe you could show me what an alpha male's all about." And so he follows you out of the club, and you barely get him to the end of the boardwalk. Still in eyeshot and earshot of Neptune's domain, when the hunger becomes too much. Fuck the room, you think. You see a convenient alleyway wedged between a Chinese restaurant and a fish and chip shop. The dumpsters call invitingly. You grab Dev by the collar and shove him down the side street into the shadows. What? Here? He asks. I mean... He doesn't have a chance to continue as you push him roughly against a brick wall, begin to unbutton his shirt. And tonight, you make no attempt to disguise this as intimate sex. You do it like an animal. Go ahead for me and roll willpower plus 1/3 of your humanity, please. This is probably what will determine whether Dev gets to leave tonight to ply his game elsewhere another night.
Well, luckily for him, I got 6 successes.
6 successes. Oh, this man is something else. As you strip him, he shouts, "Yeah, baby, alpha male!" And even without your beast calling on you to drain this man dry, you want to smash his face into the brick wall. And yet you manage to hold the beast back as you sink your fangs in and drain his blood. All but the last few drops. The beast purrs. It pushes you to take just that bit more. But you force yourself away. Reduce your hunger to 1. As you toss Dev down onto the concrete, his face pale, his eyes glazed. He simply stares up at you, his mouth hanging open, wordless, as you lean down, lick the wound, and turn and disappear into the darkness. While this is happening, Cross and Mitch arrive at the place, Valerie's chosen rendezvous. At this time of night, there's not many people there. There's a couple of undergrads from the university, some of them catching up over drinks, other of them drowning their sorrows as they pore over reams of overdue assessment. And you see Valerie beckoning you from the wooden patio out back, the one that sits just above the Barwon River and allows you to peer down and look at the sparkling black water below, the vein of darkness that runs through here, the Wutherong country. Tig's the last one to arrive. His ute's loud enough that you can hear it from the back, and as he steps out onto the patio, he brushes dirt and dust off his denim overalls, looks around, he says, upmarket place this one. I don't suppose they got some VB on the menu. He picks up the menu on the table in front of him, peers down at it, and frowns disappointed. I guess I'll grab a Corona then. Sometimes you gotta be cultured, try these foreign beers, you know. And then he takes his seat opposite the rest of the coterie. So, Val, you said tonight's important. And, well, Elaine told me as I was about to head out that, this is Cam territory. I'm not exactly welcome here, you know, so it's gotta be very important. So what's on the agenda then?
Look, you know as well as I do that if we don't pull this off, one of us is going to be in more than hot water.
Bloody oath. Hopefully it's going to be Barry Jr.
I hope it's going to be Barry Jr. as well. Look, there's so much at stake. I thought it would be best if we sat down and really planned out how this will go. Make sure we don't leave any loose ends. Make sure we tackle everything we need to and come to a consensus.
Well, says Tig as he contemplates the Corona, the wedge of lemon in the Corona that's been placed in front of him by a young waitress. Contemplates whether he wants to drink it. He frowns and he says, Bouncer and I are paying a visit to the Waste Workers Union, seeing if they're the ones that put Barry up to this, or if he's got them in his pocket, or any untoward dealings going on there. And he looks over his shoulder a couple times. He says, say, Bouncer's usually not one to keep you waiting. Where's she got to tonight?
She didn't say anything explicitly, but this isn't the first time. I think she's indisposed right now. I'm sure she'll be along quite soon.
Well, I hope she's okay. I'll be giving her a lift tonight, so don't want anyone being sick in the truck cab there. But look, we've got the brouhaha handled. We'll find out if they're playing some sort of game. I recall you mentioned something about plastic surgeon.
Yeah, so you know how I ran you down about Mark and Elliot's relationship?
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah, it seems that perhaps Barry might be involved with all this in some complicated way. I don't have any details specifically, but it seems like there may be a number of businesses around acting as fronts to ensure that folks rack up more debt than they should, or owe something to somebody that they can't possibly pay back. And this plastic surgeon was one of those. Our late friend Elvis was a regular patron.
Right, says Tig. Gotcha. Elaine said something before I left tonight. Elaine, she watches Home and Away and Grey's Anatomy every night. Got a head for gossip, She reckons, based on what she knows, what I tell her about our little thing, that the Ventru, who Mark's got, feeding him blood, he's overstepped his bounds. And she said maybe we ought to be focusing on him, honing in on him. He went anarch recently, didn't he? Used to be Cam, right? So maybe this is all his play. And Barry's just his puppet. Don't know how we can get leverage on him right now, but might be worth keeping in mind for the future, or tomorrow night, in fact, when we got to present our case to Barry.
I'm not sure which way around the whole operation works. I'm trying to keep an open mind and work with the evidence that we find, which is part of the reason why I think we should go down to Dr. White's plastic surgery palace and see what we can find. Any evidence that can point us to whatever's going on will help us greatly.
Right. Bayside Tuck and Tweak. Oh, Tig shudders as he says the name. He grabs the Corona bottle and takes a tiny sip, and he shudders at that. He says, "I'll tell you what, just nothing like the good old Aussie beer, These Spanish beers, never mind that. Bayside Tuck and Tweak certainly sounds like the type of place pieces of work would hang out, Elaine and me, we're happy with how we look. You've got to be something fundamentally insecure about you if that's the type of place you want to spend your hard-earned cash."
Something tells me that they're being preyed upon a little bit further than that.
Right. So I suppose you'll be heading off there, which means... He looks over at Cross and Mitch. How about yous two? Surely it shouldn't take 3 people to get some info out of a doctor.
That's what I was thinking. There's no way we can cover all this tonight, and we have to have this wrapped up as neatly as possible by the end of it. So, who wants to go where? Who wants to do what? And who will need what support?
Mitch is kind of drawing on the table with his finger, clearly really contemplating something. And he waits just long enough for it to be a concerning amount of sounds before he goes, "Boo-ha."
Boo-ha. Coming along with me and Bouncer. Right. So that would leave, he looks over at Cross and he says, "Well, I don't suppose there'll be any ghosties over there, but how do you feel about backing up our Val with the doc?"
Of course, just sort of looks at Valerie up and down for a minute, and is they pick at their arm for a little bit, and then it says, "Yeah, okay, fine."
Tig claps his hands. Alright, 2 to 2. Bouncer's running really late tonight. I hope she's alright, but... Ah! Says Tig as he stands up. He makes his way across the patio, his thick work boots thumping loudly on the polished wood. He leans over the safety rail at the edge, peering out to the car park out front. He says, "There! That's her now! Hey! Bouncer over here!" He waves. So, Cross would have had the opportunity to perhaps go back to Lisa's home try to commune with whatever remains are there. But Bouncer's been out hunting and missed most of this get-together. Bouncer doesn't have time to join you in the back. Instead, you meet her out the front as you're leaving the place and getting ready to go your separate ways. Tig quickly fills you in on what's been discussed, Bouncer. He beckons for you to follow him towards his ute and he says, "You, me, and Mitch, we're off to see the Bruja."
Hold on, before you all just start spreading out everywhere, there's one more thing. When I was sniffing around the Addy the other day, Mitch had a bit of a realization and noticed a dossier on one April Power. Now, I'm pretty sure that we saw her at the night of the murder in question. You know, the one several years ago. Somebody should probably talk to her and see if she has any information at some point too.
Right.
If we can't make it work, we can't make it work. But it seems like a good lead.
Right, says Tig. Me daughter mentioned her. Apparently, personality on that Facegram or Instabook or whatever. Yeah, vampire-themed fitness. The fads the kids have got these days.
Cringe.
He says, "Well, I don't know where we'd start by trying to find her, but..." "Hang on," he says. "Hang on." Shoves a hand into his scraped jeans, and he pulls out his decades-old Nokia 3200. He peers down at it, squinting at the screen. He says, "I got a message from Murphy. You know, pussy magnet, the nos. How do I..." He squints as he jabs a button with his big thumb. "I can't seem to... Oh, here, you take it." And he hands the phone to you, Valerie.
Cross has already snatched the phone.
Yeah, Cross just snatches it before Valerie could take it. Quickly brings the message up, and the first thing that pops up is a grainy photo of April Powers, but not as she appears on Instagram. This is an old photo. She's quite a bit younger. It's dated around the time the coterie would have met her on that night at Sip Sip Hooray. Murphy has attached her real name, April Winters, and her address, an apartment a couple of blocks from the waterfront. One of those expensive places that'll set you back $500,000 in rent every 6 months. Clearly, her Instagram gig's doing well enough for her. She's able to live in luxury. A far cry from the starving photographist. I meant to say starving artist, and I had photographer in my head. It's a starving photographist it is.
That's some Final Fantasy XIV speak.
That she was 20 years ago that night.
Yeah, Cross is just going to relay this and show the picture. Anyone recognize her?
So Bouncer.
Yeah, she was definitely there that night.
Yeah, Valerie, you recognize her, and Bouncer, now that your mind is clearer and you've fed, you definitely recognize her. You wonder why you didn't recognize her earlier.
And she's aged normally?
Seems to have aged normally. Most certainly not a kindred, or even a ghoul for that matter.
Well, considering that she's making quite a fuss at the moment and she's well known, I have no doubts that calling up Jeanette, Valerie could probably get an in with her.
Hey, you could.
Since once the story, I can do that, but
can.
do I want to?
The thing is, if you do that, it'll mean that you'll have to be the one to go see April, leaving someone else, leaving Mitch on his own to question the doc.
And that wouldn't go down so well.
You do have her address. You could just
If
turn
you
up,
go-
knock on the door, and try to get her to talk to you.
If you go to April's, Cross could sneak through the house while you're keeping her distracted and look for anything useful.
Well, how much time do we have tonight? Since it's
So,
fairly
you've got the
early, I
whole
assume it's
night
like
ahead of
9 or
you.
10.
Yeah, you got the
Okay.
whole night ahead of you.
In that case, as a player, I feel like there's probably time for us to do one activity and then the other,
Yeah.
if we pace it out well.
So,
Yeah.
Bouncer, are you still committed to visiting the Bruja, or would you like to change your itinerary?
No, I think Bounce is going to stick with the Bruja, yeah.
Alright.
Figures at least hopefully some of the clan camaraderie will help a bit with that.
So, Val, you'd like to pay April a visit, get Jeanette to set up a meeting, and I suppose you'd like to bring Cross and Mitch with you. Both of them can sneak around.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then afterwards we can go break into Dr.
the
White's
doctor.
tuck and tweak.
Yeah.
I think Cross would be greatly relieved to learn that it's not just going to be with Val.
Yeah. Val unsettles Cross a bit. So you gather in the little foyer between the reception area of the place and the parking lot. You huddle around Val as she shoots a message to Jeanette with April's name, address, and face. Can you set me up with a meeting, love? ? Love heart. You only have to wait 5 minutes. The phone beeps, and Jeanette replies. The message reads, "Consider it done. Meeting scheduled for 20 minutes from now." Rather easy to get her to bite. Just had to promise second page coverage. Say what you want about legacy media, but it's interesting how quickly Insta influencers will jump at the prospect of any traditional publicity. And you've used your law sheet ability.
Yeah,
So-
this story.
With everything set and ready to go, you start to make your way across the car park. And suddenly, she's there. A woman, wild-eyed and frantic, seemingly stepping out of nowhere. 1 second, you're walking towards the cars, the row of cars that are parked, silent and dark on the edge of the road. Beyond, there's some townhouses and a laundromat shut for the night. No sign of life. And then she's there in front of you, her clothes hanging off her body, her face streaked with mascara-blackened tears. "Wait!" she says in a croaking voice. "I know who you are! What you are! I'll do anything!" She reaches out, grabbing Val by her frock. "I'll do anything! I just need some vitae, please!"
Valerie is quite disgusted by what's happening here and kind of like shakes her jacket off, just trying to loosen her grip, and gives her like not a look of disdain, but a look of like, oh god, I'm gonna have to wash this, aren't I?
Push the woman away, and as you do, look down at her hand and notice the leathery, wrinkled skin, the age spots, and then you peer at her face, look past the tear-stained mascara, the running makeup, and realise this woman is quite old, at least in her 80s, maybe even in her 90s. It's a wonder she's able to move under her own power. You push her away and she stumbles, and then she looks back at the rest of you, wild-eyed. Please! Please! I saw you going in. I know what you are. I can tell a vampire when I sees one. I can. She lowers her voice as she leans in. I just needs a drop. Just one, please.
Val looks to Tig and kind of sarcastically quips, "This is more of your wheelhouse, isn't it?"
Tig looks over. He raises an eyebrow. He says, "Another one? Look, Elaine already gave me an earful for what I did with Lucky at the hospital, and you're asking me to do another one?"
No, just razzing you. And Val kind of turns to the old lady and walks a little way behind some cars, just kind of beckoning her with it, with a long finger. Why do you need ours? What happened to your current supply?
He's gone, he is, she says. Baron Victor, I was his favourite. He said that name pulled some weight among your kind. I was his favourite, and then he vanished, and now I'm nothing. Dying old woman, I just need one last taste of the vamp blood, just one more before I go.
Baron Victor? Is that the current Baron?
That's the Baron who, supposedly, according to the word around town, was beckoned away to the Middle East, as befalls many vampires of potent blood.
Interesting.
One Barry's trying to replace, I think.
Indeed, yeah, it's the one who Barry's trying to replace. He gave no indication he was gonna leave. In fact, we had plans to meet up that night. We did, but he never showed.
There's a little twinkle in Val's eye, and she recognizes that this could be an excellent source of information.
Just one quick
The missing Baron's Ghoul? Oh, that could be good.
Did you
Sorry,
did you pull her out of earshot from the rest of us?
I suppose the coterie would have followed.
Not from the coterie, but just from bypasses. Yeah.
Second question. Does Cross know what a ghoul is?
Does Cross have any dots in occult?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's got 3.
Cross would have been told by its sire what a ghoul is. The Hecata uses them quite heavily, actually. It's a Giovanni thing, certainly more than a Samadi thing, but the Hecata are known to use ghouls to establish themselves in a city. You probably would have even seen a couple.
In this case, Val's doing the mental math of how many asses she'd have to kiss and how many deals she'd have to make sure she doesn't get in too much trouble. But it comes to the conclusion that, no, this is an asset. She can't possibly let this go. And she slowly pulls a little pocket knife out from her bag, just a little ornate knife, and cuts along her arm slightly and offers it to the woman.
The prince will accept your explanation. Prince
especially
Aveline,
to get information.
Prince Aveline is a reasonable woman. She'll understand. Or at least that's what you tell yourself. Pull out your penknife and make a small incision on your thumb. Go ahead and...
Hold on, are you supposed to be doing that?
Look, strictly no, but do you know who the Baron was?
Not really, no.
Tig raises an eyebrow. Well, look, all I know is the talk around town is he's fucked off because of the beckoning, whatever that is. But it's affecting all the older vamps, all the lower generation types, and they're heading off. And, well, I didn't question anything else about it till the last few nights. And he peers over at you, Valerie, and he says, sure you want to do this? Look, I know I did it with Lucky and all, but I'm an anarch. Rules ain't as strict.
Cross turns to the woman and just bluntly asks, how long have you been a ghoul?
She peers back at you. I born 1902, I was.
It's all alive.
Met the Baron. 1932. He's been feeding me ever since. She peers at Cross and she says, he was me favourite. All the other ghouls, when he got what he wanted, he'd turf them out. And me, kept me around, because we cared about each other, we did. He loved me just as I loved him, and he would have even embraced me too.
Yeah,
he would have.
Okay, but you've aged how fast? When was the last time you got a drink?
2-3 weeks, she says. I've aged about 60 years in that time.
So Mitch has a specialty in detect lies.
Yeah.
Something about this isn't quite adding up, I think.
You can make a wits insight check with your detect lies specialty if you like.
Are you at a specialty?
Just add an extra dice is how it works.
Three successes.
Her eyes watch Valerie's penknife. Her pupils following the blade as it slowly presses into Val's skin. And as she waits for Val to cut, she keeps repeating, I was his favourite, I was his favourite, I was, he kept me fed, he wouldn't have left me high and dry like this, he wouldn't have. She seems to be telling the truth, she's genuine, but whether out of anxiety and urgency to get blood, or whether out of conscious choice, she's not giving you the full story. There is something she's holding back.
You know this won't de-age you, right?
I know that, but I just need another taste. I just need another taste. If I can just live for another month, I can get my affairs in order, and I can die happy.
Mitch.
I know you don't really. Sorry, go.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
No,
Mitch.
kind of like puts his hand out and like kind of like stops Val. And it's like, okay. It's not that we don't believe you. I believe you. Kind of. Clearly there's something going on here that you're not telling us, which is fine. Kind of. Can you just tell us what's going on? Because we'd really like to not get into any hairy situations because you're not telling us the full truth.
Mitch speaks to her the way that he would be talking to one of his students, calmly explaining the flaw he found in their methodology and their paper. He's not disappointed in them. He just wants to know what was making them tick at the time, what led them to this line of inquiry, and show them the correct way to do things. How many dots in charisma and persuasion do you have, Mitch?
3 in charisma and 2 in persuasion.
Yeah, so I won't make you roll. 5 is enough. She looks away from Val, peers back at you, and she says, like I said, we had plans to meet that night 3 weeks ago, like I said. He was going to give me my monthly feed, but he didn't turn up. Kept me around because, unlike the others, I wasn't just a tool to him. He actually cared. There was a time when there was talk of the possibility of him embracing me, but he realized he couldn't do it. See, he couldn't turn me into a vampire, because if he tried, I would have become she fumbles trying to find the words. She looks over at Cross, silently begging for help, and then raises a finger. A thin blood! He said I'd have been a thin blood, and he couldn't do that to me.
I mean, I don't see what's wrong with the thin blood.
Is it news to Val that the Baron was like a 13th or 14th gen?
This would be news to everyone. If indeed, if this ghoul is telling the truth, and him embracing her would have created a thin blood, then his blood is far less potent than the Baron or anyone else would have led you to believe, and almost certainly not potent enough to be a victim of the beckoning.
The gravity of this is lost on Cross. Not, it might think of the beckoning thing because if it's a cult, but it's more like zeroing in on her, like him telling her that it'd be bad for her to be a thin blood.
He said it would be a crime to do that to me, to his favourite. Said if I was a thin blood, life would be hard. I was
Thin
better
blood's a
off
fuck
as
of
a
a lot
ghoul.
better off than a ghoul.
She raises an eyebrow and says, so, he said ghouls is better. He said better to be a ghoul, but
Finally, the issue dawns on Cross, and it says, "Hold on a minute. You said that he just disappeared one day?"
me no didn't say anything. Just didn't turn up. Wouldn't answer calls. Phone dropped out of service, and he was gone. He wouldn't have left the city, not like that. He wouldn't have left me high and dry. And besides, there was other things. There was things he was dealing with in his domain. He wouldn't have just left. He was complaining about an infestation in the waterfront. He said he had to weed out the snakes.
The specific wording of that is not going to be lost on Valerie. The
Yeah.
snakes.
Go, bouncer.
Oh, just so is the whole like the thin blood prejudice? Is that like the similar here as it is in the Melbourne story?
Bit better. Like, the Anarchs, functionally consider the thin bloods of this city to be their brothers and sisters, but much like in other domains such as Melbourne, the thin bloods do their own thing. They're tolerated, and that's better than a lot of other domains.
Yeah.
But you'd be hard-pressed to find a kindred here in G-Town who would consider thin bloods to be true vampires.
So it's not like too unreasonable to believe that a Cam wouldn't want to embrace a thin blood.
Yeah. Even an Anarch, these are pathetic weaklings of the 14th, 15th, 16th generations. They're barely more than human. And, well, there's some logic to what she's saying. If the Baron indeed was such a high generation that he would create a thin blood, if he cared about this woman, then maybe he wouldn't have considered being a thin blood something he'd like to foist upon her. Or maybe he just didn't want to lose a valuable ghoul.
This is convincement enough for Val, and she proffers a thumb out to the old lady.
Go ahead, make a rouse check for me, Val.
Val doesn't get hungrier.
You draw blood, and as a single drop emerges from the cut, the woman's eyes glimmer, and like a junkie who's been handed a baggie of cocaine, she leaps upon your hand, grabs it, and almost like a vampire on the verge of frenzy. She sucks the blood out of the cut. Her pupils dilate, colour rushes into her skin, and she shudders. She opens her mouth and lets out a contented sigh. Ah, yes. Oh, sweet Vitae. She shakes her head, trying to dispel the rush of euphoria that she's currently experiencing, and then she holds out a skeletal hand. Ah, such a kindness, lover. I'm Ophelia. I'm a ghoul of Baron Victor, or at least I was. Now I'm nothing. A dying old woman. But at least I've got time to put my affairs in order.
Strictly speaking, now you're a ghoul of hers.
She nods,
Valerie
acknowledging this.
lets out a big toothy grin that you can all see.
Mitch kind of clears his throat and he's like, look, I understand that the Baron was very important to you. I understand the depth of that bond. So if there's anything else you can tell us about around the time that he went missing, anything strange that went on, anything that would have explained why he went missing so suddenly, anything you can remember, it would be a great help for us.
So with your 5 dots, and with Valerie having sated her with blood, she's pretty forthcoming with her answers. She says, hey, well, he was getting more insistent about these snakes. An infestation in the waterfront. In the nights leading up to his disappearance, he complained more and more. He said they was out to replace him, they was. Said a woman by the name of Meredith. Meredith was gunning for his position as she was going to use the warlord of the waterfront's position as a stepping stone, work her way up to Baron, work her way up to Baron, and then she trails off. You don't think maybe he didn't leave at all? Maybe these snakes, maybe they done him in? And I should clarify, when I say Baron Victor, I've been using the wrong term. It is not Baron, it is Warlord, of course. The position that was recently vacated that Barry is currently gunning for. So please imagine I said that instead of Baron.
Initially, I had thought it was the beckoning, but if he's that thin-blooded, then that's definitely.
I mean, we do have information that the Setites and the Bruja were both kind of in cahoots to some degree.
Yeah, at least with Barry.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Barry did say that they both supported him in this blood hunt he's trying to foist on you. The woman frowns. This Meredith, do you think she did the warlord in?
Has Mort told Cross much about Setites?
He's told you that typically the Setites are not friendly with the Hecata, but there is some history between your bloodline and his bloodline specifically, the Samedi, and that the Setites have known to forge alliances with the Samedi in the past. And while he hasn't told you anything about the Setites of this city in particular, he did leave you with a piece of advice that when you're working outside the Hecata and you need allies, there are worse people to try than the Setites. They and the Samedi, the children of the Baron Samedi that is, go way back.
Sounds like we've got a lot more on our plate than I expected. We were going to go see the Bruja and do all that, but I think we should probably pressure Sam to try and get us that meeting with the Setites tonight.
Agreed, says Tig. Me daughter helped me put her in the contacts book. Now, if I he jabs at his thumb he jabs at his phone with his thumb, and he says, all right, I see her name here, and right, be back in a sec.
You might. I'm not sure, but it might be helpful if you mention my sire's name.
Mort. Right, Mort. I'll pass it on to her. I just press this green button here, he says, leaning over to Bouncer.
Yes, that one.
Right. You hear the phone beep, and then Tig steps away, stepping out of earshot and walking across the car park towards his ute, the phone clasped to his ear. You hear him begin to talk. Oh, yeah, meeting with the Setites. See, he looks over his shoulder. We got some evidence that, his voice trails off as he steps further away. The ghoul woman leans forward. She leans towards you, Val, clasps your hand in her own, and she says, "May I know your name, who have granted me a kindness?"
Valerie doesn't respond verbally, but does proffer her a business card and says, "Make yourself available. I'll be calling you later."
The woman nods. She slips a card into her disheveled clothing, and then she says, I've told you all I know about Warlord Victor, and, well, if someone's done him in, I hope that information helps you bring them to justice. We truly loved each other, did Victor and I?
I'm sure you did, and we'll look into it, but do make yourself available.
I will, says Ophelia, and then she nods, flashing the first smile you've seen. She looks content, at least for now. Thank you. The Warlord, Victor said that others wouldn't be as kind as him, but it's nice to know that even he was capable of being wrong. And then she turns and begins to shuffle away. At this point, the Tig steps back into earshot, slipping his phone back into his pocket, and he says, I've illuminated Sam on what's going on. Said she should mention a Mort to the Setites, and she said it's, in her words, intriguing. She'll be pushing for it. Said, make sure we ain't got nothing make sure we got nothing on in about an hour, 2 hours.
An hour or two? We'll have to see them first then.
Well, what I thought she was getting at is that, whatever we do now, make sure we get it done quickly enough so when she calls with the meeting, we can head straight off.
Oh, Christ, that puts a real time limit on this. Alright, if anybody has any objections to the plan, please say so now. Otherwise, we should get going immediately.
Tig beckons to Bouncer. Come on, love. Come, up in the ute. I'll give you a lift out to the city dump. We'll see what these Bruja got to say.
Val whips out her phone and starts summoning an Uber.
So, Val, you're headed to
It's a level 3 blood ritual.
Yeah. You're headed to see April, I believe. And you're bringing Cross and Mitch with you for sneaking.
Yep, that's right.
Right. So, we will go with Bouncer first. Bouncer, you brush some of the O'Tollies wrappers, old newspapers, and bags of dog food off the passenger seat, sliding into the cabin of Tig's ute. The 3 dogs he's got in the back watch you curiously as you climb in, and when you reach out to scratch one of them behind the ears, he tilts his head. And then the engine roars to life, and for a brief moment you think the whole vehicle's about to fall apart. It seems like Tig hits every pothole on the road as he drives through Thompson, back through the waterfront district, and slowly carries you out to West Gateway, to the tip, right there on the edge of Foster. The tip is a roughly 10-acre block of land. It's wedged right in between 2 large vegetable farms, and the stench of the rubbish dump itself mixes with the rustic aroma of the manure that's used as fertilizer in the surrounding farms, creating a smell quite unlike anything you've smelled before, even when helping the girls at the club clean out vomit and feces, scrubbing the toilet walls. So, the Waste Workers Union, as they're known. Well, they hang out at the dump, and it's a dump, literally. Canyons weave between piles of sorted, squashed, and squared garbage. Humans in bright orange jumpsuits zip around in forklifts or stand in small groups, laughing and drinking out of paper coffee cups. And at the back of the site, a storage container's been converted into a small office. Here's where you meet with the 3 heads of the Waste Workers Union. Dinesh Kapoor, Grace Gongsoon, and Sasha Smith. They're waiting for you, expecting you. Tig phoned ahead. They all introduce themselves in a professional, straightforward manner. Dinesh and Grace are wearing the same orange workwear as the humans outside, while Sasha is in a cheap-looking shirt with a pin-on tie. The shirt barely fits his figure at all. It's either baggy, it's baggy in some places and tight in others, and as the other members of the Waste Workers Union introduce themselves and offer you and Tig seats, Sasha is taking notes, scribbling at a furious pace on a notepad as he sits on top of a desk, leaning against a cracked plaster wall. Right, says Dinesh. Tig phoned ahead, said you'd be paying us a visit, and I'm to understand this is about the thing going on with the Elvis guy and the task, the thing Barry's got you doing, nominating one of you to face the final death. Not sure how we can help, but, you know, as anarchs to anarchs, I understand you're trying to clear your name, and if there's any way we can help, feel free to impress upon us, and we'll do our best.
Well, that is most appreciated. Well, I guess to start off with, let's start with the Barry thing, or do I have something else in it?
Tig looks over at you, his eyebrow raised, and he says, well, first off the bat, you're right. Barry's fingering us for that death. And, look, we were there that night. I was there that night. We didn't have anything to do with it, and we're trying to find out who did so we can clear our names. Nobody's got to die. And as Elaine said to me, these tactics, this blood hunt thing, that sounds an awful lot more like the Cam than it does Anarchs. Right? Dinesh and Grace look at each other and they nod silently. Sasha scrawls on his notepad. And then Grace smiles towards Tig and she says, yes, blood hunt does sound sufficiently Cam-like. But even Anarchs have to lay down the law. Dinesh folds his arms, leans back against a desk, and he looks at you, Bouncer, and he says, look, normally, I wouldn't want to get involved with this. Blood hunts, masquerade breaches, I'd rather keep the Cam out of our hair, but you and I, brouhaha to brouhaha, look, you've at least earned our ear, so go ahead, ask us what you want to know. Tell us what we can do, and we'll see if maybe the bonds of clanship rise above everything else. All this petty shit.
Alright, I guess I'll just go straight into it then. According to Barry, you were one of the two groups backing his decision as his attempt to go for the new warlord position.
She raises an eyebrow and Grace opens her mouth in obvious shock. He said what? Says Dinesh.
Yes.
You said you're not pulling our legs here. Barry told you that we put him up to this, that we're gunning for you guys.
Well, not for us, but you would have his backing in him going for the position.
Never trust a gangrel with subtleties. No offence, he says, looking at Tig. Look, all we said was that if someone's got to be punished for a masquerade breach, to keep the Cam, keep the Prince and her cronies off our backs, then yeah, we wouldn't raise a stink about it. And that's all we said. Look, I feel for you lot, I really do. But if the crime goes unpunished, those power-hungry freaks in Adelaide or Melbourne or even Sydney might think we got no leadership down here. They'll try to annex us, replace Prince Aveline with someone who's interested in stamping us out and make us swear loyalty to some camfuck. No one wants that, and you know, word on the grapevine with all that stuff going on in Melbourne, Prince down there's on the verge of war with the Anarchs, and, well, he is something untoward's going on up here, who knows what he'll do. You understand? Look, nothing personal. We didn't say any of yous should die. We just said maybe someone needs to be reined in and an example set.
Okay, that's interesting.
Tig looks over and Tig says, he specifically said you and the Sedites were the ones who were pushing him to come after us, and he chilled you down, managed to talk you down to just one of us going. Right? He looks over at Bouncer.
Yes, those were almost his exact words. Oh,
Dinesh frowns, and beside him, Grace clenches a fist. Look, she says, that's bullshit. We didn't want anyone to die. He's the one who came to us, said he and the Sedites agreed there needed to be a blood hunt. We were against it, but he managed to make us see reason that if there's a Masquerade breach, and with the warlord being out of town, beckoned away, someone needs to lay down the law.
So he claimed to you that the Setites were after us, not you.
Indeed he did. Now, that would make sense, as I understand it, says Dinesh. He looks over at Sasha, and they meet each other's eyes, and then Sasha silently nods. Dinesh smiles and says, look, it's an open secret that Meredith is trying to replace Warlord Victor, take over. So, you know, if she's leveraging Barry to achieve that end, makes sense to me that the Setites would be the ones who originally came up with the whole thing. And look, we have no love for Barry and his family of sharks or the Temple of Set, but we got no qualms about working with them either. What's the saying? Keep your friends close and your enemies right where you can fucking see them. We're not planning on making a bid for Baron. We liked the old Baron. Grace smiles next to him and she says, Victor might have been a pompous weirdo, but he left us alone and that suited us just fine. We're not happy that the warlord vanished, and we don't believe the story of him heeding the beckoning to go to the Middle East, but what can you do? It's just us against Barry and the Setites. And nothing personal, like Dinesh says, but if someone's got to be the fall guy, we'd rather it be you than us. Tig says, so, way I understand it, you're not planning on helping us, you're planning on selling us upriver, right? Dinesh shrugs. He says, well, like I said, Bouncer's one of us, and we certainly would rather she not be the one who meets the final death. And now that you've brought to our attention that Barry's quite blatantly lying about the fact, we'd be willing to help you out. But it depends. What can you offer us?
Well, what if I said we were very close to finding out who actually did it?
Yeah? Got any ideas? Says Dinesh.
Yeah, we have some clues. We'll need to find some proper hard evidence to convict them, but we're fairly certain we know who it is.
A name, love.
At the moment, we think it's Barry Jr.
Barry Jr. Dinesh smiles. Sasha stops writing for just a moment, and for the first time, you hear him speak. Little fuck's been draining people for decades, open secret. This one didn't have any of his hallmarks, though. Someone hid the corpse, and that ain't Barry Jr.'s style. But if you're sure... Look, here's how I see it, says Grace. If it is Barry Jr., then Barry's using this as an opportunity to find a way to clear his boy's name. Make sure that his boy's Masquerade breaches don't come back to reflect badly on him when he makes his push for Warlord, either for himself or for the Setites. So, if you're able to find some shit that sticks to Barry Jr., well, I suppose it would be our duty as constituents of the waterfront to suggest that perhaps Barry is unfit to assume the role of Warlord. Dinesh nods. And that goes for getting you out of hot water too. Look, we're the most powerful faction in these parts in terms of manpower, and everyone knows it. We could strong-arm the rest of the Anarchs at the rant into accepting a conviction on very little evidence. Not no evidence, mind you, but very little. We rock up, say Barry Jr.'s got to go down, and people will accept it. Takes the burden of proof off you, you know. But, see, doesn't really bother us whether Barry Jr. bites it or not, and if Barry comes in as warlord, I don't see him being too much trouble for us. He knows not to mess with us. Same for the Sedites. We'd rather they're not in power, but we can deal with them if need be. So, I gotta ask again, what can you do for us? As he says this, Sasha scribbles something else down on his notepad, adjusts his ill-fitting tie, peers over at Dinesh and says, maybe she can help with the... you know... the thing? Yeah, the thing. The thing! But... can we trust you, Bouncer? With sensitive information, that is the question. Especially when you brought Tig, and no offence, but this is an internal brouhaha matter. Tig nods. No offence taken, and you can trust Bouncer. I've known her 20 years, and she's never done anyone any wrong. Unless they deserved it.
And I wouldn't worry about Tig sharing the secrets. He's a very traditional person, we'll say.
Alright, I agree with you there. So can we trust you, Bouncer?
Well, of course. Who can we trust in our own clan?
Fair enough. Bouncer, go ahead, make me a charisma, leadership, and add your anarch status roll, please. And an extra bonus dice for impressing upon them the importance of clan.
Alright, we started with one status spot, didn't we?
Yeah. So you'd have an anarch
Could
one.
have that.
So so that and a bonus dice for impressing upon them the importance of clan bonds.
Charisma leadership, did you say?
Yep.
Willpower that. There we go, 4 successes.
4 successes. Yeah, they can trust you. Alright, here's the deal, says Dinesh, leaning forwards. Before he speaks, he peers left and right, looks out the window onto the workers outside, makes sure that no one can hear what he's about to say. And then he lowers his voice. We had a deal with Warlord Victor. He let us do our thing, and in return, we'd handle matters of muscle and enforcement for him. Security, you know. Like you run with the club and Melissa, right? Well, part of our duty was that if something ever did happen to the Warlord, we'd find out who did it and make sure they got what was coming to him. We don't believe that he up and left to the Middle East. And I'll have you know, little known secret, and we got to be careful about spreading it around lest we evoke the person in question's wrath. But that thing about him heading to the Middle East, that comes from Barry. We're intending to confront Barry after the rant tomorrow night. And if you've got hard evidence about what happened, what really happened to the warlord, we'll be expecting you to step up and back us up. In return, we'll push for Barry Jr. to be left out on a rooftop for the sun. Deal?
Sounds like a deal.
I'll leave you to it then. You only got one night. Better hop to it, says Dinesh. I'll see you tomorrow night at the rant. And you better have evidence. 'Cause if you don't, and we back you up for nothing in return, well, you better not show your face around here anymore, Bruja or not.
That is
Go ahead.
abundantly clear.
Abundantly clear. As they escort you out of their office and you begin to make your way following Tig across the rubbish tip, you see the workers in orange jumpsuits. They're no longer working. Instead, they seem to stop, form a line along the periphery of the tip, and silently watch as you and Tig walk past, taking sips from their paper coffee cups. And as you reach the gate that adjoins onto the street, one of the waste workers steps into the pale aura cast by a street light, takes a sip from his cup, and that's when you realise the coffee the workers are drinking isn't coffee. It's blood. They're ghouls. All of them. And suddenly, you realise what Dinesh meant about the Waste Workers Union being the most powerful faction in terms of manpower. As you step out of the gate, two of the ghouls come forwards, pull the rusty gate shut behind you, and wrap the chain through the latch so that it can't be opened on your side. And as you settle back into Tig's ute, Tig turns the key in the ignition, the engine roars to life, and he reverses down the gravel driveway onto the road. Ugh. Really straight to the point, your lot, aren't they? He says.
Yes, well, we don't like to beat around the bush very much.
Something that your lot and my mob have in common, I think. Well, we've got a task. We best let the others know. And hopefully, we can not leave Dinesh and the others hanging. They don't look like the type of guys you want to piss off. And then he reaches into his glove compartment, pulls out his mobile phone and hands it to you. I'd do it myself, but driving and, still can't get the hang of this whole SMS thing.
Yes, you just focus on the road, I'll take care of that.
And what do you inform the others of?
I guess... Yeah, it'd sort of be like a... it was like Bruja weren't gunning for our head. That was like it's like Barry lied about the Bruja wanting our head. And then
They merely agreed that something should be done.
Yeah, merely agreed that something had to be done, and then probably included the end too, the whole thing of an apparently the rumor about the Baron going not the Baron, the
warlord going missing.
Yeah, the warlord. yeah, the warlord being beckoned was started by Barry.
Yeah. And do you tell the others about the deal? That if you can find concrete evidence on what happened to the warlord,
Oh yeah.
that they'll back you up, and you won't have to bother with proving Barry Jr.'s involvement. They'll essentially strong-arm the Anarch rant into accepting whatever you have to say.
Yeah, should throw that in, yeah. Like, we can get their backing, but we have to have evidence.
Yeah. So, we cross to the others. You arrive at April Winter's apartment. Right there on the waterfront. Not directly on the waterfront. Those are the sorts of places you'd be looking at a couple $1 million just to rent for a year. But she's still close enough to the waterfront that she could say she lives on the waterfront. And her apartment is part of a heritage-listed early colonial era townhouse. There's a row of them down this street. They've all been refurbished multiple times over the decades, but that colonial charm is still present. Plenty of white lattices, creeping ivy, perfectly maintained gardens, ornate antique doors complete with brass knockers. According to the information you've been given by Pussy Magnet Murphy, April is in apartment number 3 at 22 Chilwell Road. So you make your way up the gravel path that leads through the lush front garden. Step up to the thick double mahogany doors, and as you're about to reach out to grab the brass knocker, you see an electronic panel embedded into the white weatherboard. A list of names, each a resident of the 4 apartments within this townhouse. Number 3 is simply listed as Miss Power, and beside each of these names is a small white button.
Is it clear that there's like a little webcam or video surveillance doohickey in the panel?
It's not clear, but if you'd like to roll a wits awareness.
Yeah, I think I will.
Cross will have been staying out of sight
Yeah,
around the corner.
Cross is standing off in the garden, hasn't come up onto the patio yet, just in case.
That's a 2.
That's a 2. You see a small circular hole in the weatherboard up above the top of the door frame, and it might be a camera lens, but you're not sure. There's no light or LED, it doesn't make any noise.
In that case, she doesn't beckon the others over to the door and kind of wanders back towards them first. She scattered it out. And she tries to spot Cross behind a bush or something and kind of calls him over. Look, if we're going to find anything useful in her apartment, I'm going to have to keep her distracted whilst you rummage around and do whatever it is you do best. But I don't know if she's going to be able to see us if we ring the bell, so don't follow me. You're going to have to find another way up.
Sure. Cross is going to head around to the back of the building.
Yeah. And Mitch, what are you doing?
Obviously, Silence of Death is on.
Yeah, Mitch is going to use unseen passage and kind of like trail like a little bit behind Val, like enough to keep her an eye, but not enough to like necessarily be too close.
Yeah, pincer attack. So Mitch is following Val in while Cross is finding another way around. So Cross, the grounds of the townhouse are empty at this time of night. You see a little path that winds around the right of the house. And there's a sign stating that it's for residents only, and there's a picture of a washing machine indicating that the laundry is off this way. It's likely that there's a residents only access through here, so you decide to head off that way, creeping as slowly as possible, sticking to the shadows and counting on your absolutely silent footfalls to keep you hidden. Mitch, go ahead, make a rouse check for me.
I just did. He's all good.
All good, yep. So Mitch nods at Val and then steps into the shadows cast by a fir tree and seems to fade into nothing. As Val steps up onto the patio and presses the button next to April's name, a speaker bursts to life. Who is it? I'm not buying anything. I'm in the middle of a stream, so unless you've arranged to meet me, piss off.
Oh, you want to buy what I'm selling? It's Valerie.
Oh, Val. Oh, from the Addy?
That's the one.
Oh, sure. I'll buzz you in. See you soon.
As soon as the microphone clicks off, she kind of whispers to Mitch, "Fuck, I hate influencers."
Mitch shrugs because he has no idea what that means.
You hear a...
Relatable.
Yeah. He's too busy. He's in academia. You think he has time for influencers? He's too busy marking papers, doing his own research. There's a loud beep that emanates from the electronic panel, and then you hear the click of the front door being unlocked. You grab the door handle and pull the double doors open, and they creak loudly as they admit you into the foyer of the apartment. It's cramped, very cramped. There's just enough room for you to squeeze past a reception desk where a bored-looking security guard nods silently at you as he ushers you towards the elevator, the end of a hallway beyond. He doesn't notice Mitch, and by the time Mitch passes by, he's already gone back to absent-mindedly scrolling through something on his phone. You press the button, number 3, in front of the elevator, and a few seconds later, the metallic doors slide open. Ding! You step into the elevator, the doors shut behind you, and it lurches as it begins to carry you up to the 3rd floor. The doors roll open and admit you directly into the hallway in front of April's apartment. At the end of the hallway, you see a stairwell. There's a picture of a washing machine on a plaque in front of it, indicating that it leads down to the laundry. And this is presumably where Cross will pop up later. But you pay no attention to it as you make your way to April's front door, which is ajar, waiting for you. Do you just walk on in?
Valerie's going to make a bit of a display of kind of opening the door nice and widely and peering on through, just in case April's watching. Wide enough for Mitch to absolutely slip through while she kind of does her little dance.
As you open the door, you hear April's voice looming from somewhere within. Oh, Rockcaster88, thank you for the donation. That is $15. And in response to your query, yes, this is a real thing. Look it up. You step over the threshold into April Winter's apartment. The whole thing is a big studio loft. You can see her bedroom off in one corner in front of a big bay window that looks down onto the street below. On the other corner of the loft is a makeshift photography studio. She's converted a closet beyond it into a dark room, and there's shelves of developing chemicals and basins lined up against the wall in front of it. There's a little kitchenette, and the big open floor space between you and her is minimally furnished with a couple of leather chairs, but they're the kind of leather chairs that look like they would have cost about $8,000 each. In the last remaining corner of the studio, April herself is reclining in a leather recliner. There are 3 different cameras on tripods pointing at her, and a laptop is propped up on a folding card table within arm's reach. April's changed. She's not the purple-haired teenager snapping photos and hoping clocks will explode anymore. She's a blonde fitness, health and beauty guru, a budget Gwyneth Paltrow. Her apartment is full of scented candles, gemstones, and product placement. It's more of a set than an actual home. Oh, bio break, she says as she taps something on the laptop, sending the stream she's currently doing into break mode. And then she swivels the chair around to face you. She's in the middle of a blood facial. Like she said, it's a thing. Look it up. Or don't. The only thing you need to know right now as vampires is that her face is smeared with her own blood. So Mitch, Val, I'd like you to both make a rouse check, please.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, Val gets hungrier. That's awful. That's truly awful.
And Mitch?
Oh, sorry, I forgot I was muted. Mitch also gets hungry.
Yeah. You stare down into April's face. Only her eyes and lips are visible. Everything else a solid crimson mask of blood. Like something out of a horror movie. Her face is so smeared with vitae that it's beginning to drip off the bottom of her chin onto the floor, pooling around the base of the recliner, and you feel your beast stir ever so slightly as she smiles, revealing blood-stained teeth. Val! Val, I'd shake your hand, but it's covered in pig blood at the moment. Please, drag a chair over, take a seat. We'll get started.
Oh, as much as I'd like to get started, I'm sure you know how I work. Not near the cameras.
Oh, cameras? Oh, sure. She leans over, presses a key on the laptop, and you see the green lights on the cameras flash and turn red. There. No live stream, no nothing. All of this is off my record. Of course, it's going to be on your record. Take a seat. We'll get started. Would you like pig bloods in the tub over there? She points towards the kitchenette. If you want to do a blood facial, I'd be happy to guide you through it. Very good to get the pores cleaned out.
We're pressed for time at the moment. Perhaps next time I graced with your presence.
Very well, very well. Oh, look, your paws look lovely anyway, I might point out.
Valerie is just gritting her teeth at the moment, seeing all the blood everywhere, and can barely accept the compliment. She's got a job to do, that's all she can focus on.
Best with your own blood, of course, she says, but I'm not going to bleed myself enough to cover my whole face, so no, I mix it with the pig blood, but she gazes at the cameras. Don't let them know that.
At this moment, if there was a camera that could see inside Valerie's breast pocket, a little tape recorder would be glowing slightly green.
Yeah.
She records everything.
She's wearing a wire!
So at this point,
Valerie's
Mitch,
always wearing a wire.
You're completely unseen, and now that the cameras are turned off, you have free reign of the apartment. And while Val grabs one of those expensive leather chairs and starts to drag it over the polished floorboards to seat herself in front of April to conduct her interview. I would like Cross to go ahead and make for me a wit plus stealth plus obfuscate check. You might be muted, Ash.
Oh, sorry. It was with stealth obfuscate, yeah.
Yeah, wit, stealth, obfuscate, yeah.
That's 4 successes.
4 successes, lovely. I rolled 3 for the person you're going to pass by. As Cross, you make your way around the back of the apartment block, and there's a brick shed adjoined to the back of the old townhouse. It doesn't face the street, so it isn't quite as eye-catching as the house itself. And you can see rows of washing machines lined up inside. You step past this towards a metal screen door at the back of the townhouse. Slowly pull it open and duck inside, starting to make your way up the residence stairwell to the 3rd floor. When you reach the 2nd floor landing, you hear the sound of footsteps, and peering down the hallway, you see a rather rotund, blonde-haired man stepping out of the 2nd floor apartment, wheeling a laundry hamper behind him. You press yourself flat against the wall at the mouth of the stairwell and duck beneath a rubbish bin that's been placed there. And you wait. Wait until you hear the sound of the wheels of the laundry hamper dropping from one step to another as they descend the staircase. And then you continue your climb up. You find the door for apartment 3 already ajar. And so, taking care not to make any noise, you push it open slightly and slip in, just wide enough to admit yourself. April, luckily, doesn't manage to see you. Her eyes are closed as she leans over, reaches into some sort of bucket at the base of her chair, and starts to smear blood over her eyelids. Luckily, you're far enough away from her that you don't have to make a rouse check as you sneak into the apartment. Sighs April, her eyes closed. Sorry, Val, hope you don't need me to maintain eye contact. It's just the blood facial works best when it covers every pore. So, how should we start this? Jeanette mentioned something about coverage on page 2. Said you would write about my channel, of course, that is April Powers Fitness at Instagram.
Oh, is that what Jeanette said? Val tries to play that off as not necessarily news to her, but that is somewhat news to her. Well, yeah, we could probably get you page 2. Yeah, we could bump a different article, pull you all the way up. But for that kind of coverage, I'm going to need to ask you some other questions as well.
Other questions? Oh, well, sure, I mean, I'm happy to do the standard puff piece. How did I start this gig? Oh, if you could, I would appreciate maybe a paragraph or 2 on Pentex Pharmaceuticals, of course, who have been very grateful in supplying most of the lovely products you can see around us right now. Hold on, she says. She scrapes some of the blood off her eyelids, says, this one won't stick. Gonna need some human blood for this one. Something a bit more sentient, you understand. She grabs a silver safety pin off the armrest and, without warning, plunges it into the palm of her hand, and as the blood begins to roll over her age lines, she slathers it over her closed eyelids. She's just a mask of redness staring back at you. And at this point, Val, I would like you to please go ahead and make for me a Resolve plus Auspex roll.
Ooh, okay. So that will be 2 plus 2.
Suddenly, a premonition floods into your
3
mind.
successes.
3 successes. A detailed premonition floods into your mind. It's April, smearing blood over her face, just as she is now. But it's not the April that's in front of you. This is the April of 20 years ago, the starving artist, the photographer trying to break into the industry. She's smearing what seems to be human blood all over her face as she opens her mouth in an orgasmic gasp of ecstasy. Behind her, you could see the cracked, grimy tiles of Sip Sip Hooray's bathroom. You're back in her apartment, sitting in front of her as she wipes the last of the blood off just under her left eyebrow and smiles. Okay, well, look, I'll admit this isn't the first time I've been interviewed, but never by a newspaper, so normally, I guide the conversation. I'd start to talk about where I started, promote a bit of my photography, maybe talk about the latest product I'm using, but, well, I understand this is going to be a bit different than talking to someone on YouTube, so I'm happy to let you get it started if you like.
For the next little while, Val is going to just play the role of like a really basic puff piece interview, trying to buy Cross and Mitch some time to scour the apartment. Just trying to distract her as much as possible, asking the most boring inane questions, so she just drones on and on as much as possible.
Yes.
She's got the juicy questions for later.
Do you have your ore on?
Turn
Will
it
that
on.
work if... Yeah, I think I will, but will that work if she's got her eyes closed?
It won't, but if she does open her eyes, she'll probably be inclined to look directly at you. Just...
Why not? It's a good idea.
You turn on her ore, she can't see you at the moment, but this should serve as, a couple extra seconds of distraction if she does open her eyes, to prevent her spotting Cross, who's currently, as we speak, slowly creeping past behind you. Go ahead and make for me a manipulation, performance, or persuasion check. Do not add your presence.
Ooh, I'm gonna willpower that.
Willpower that.
That's still 1.
1. You
I'm
can
I'm a bit concerned about this, because every time I've willpowered this, it's never come back with an extra dot.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm not sure if it actually works.
Just do the
It
check.
does.
Just re-roll
It
the
does?
actual
Okay.
check again and see.
There we go, Missy crit.
Messy crit. So, pull out your notepad and begin to write. And as you talk to her, as she talks back to you, the blood drips off her lips, drips off her chin. It splatters onto her leather pants, onto the recliner, onto the floorboards, and your beast is restless. All of this blood in front of you for free. Why won't you take it? You're hungry. You're always hungry. The pangs of hunger never go away, and this woman is foolish enough to invite you into her own home and offer her own blood to you. You could take it so easily. She's practically begging you. And we're going to activate your compulsion as a result of that messy critical. So,
what's she gonna say?
a Toreador compulsion.
Yeah, that's obsession.
That is indeed obsession. Enraptured by beauty, you become temporarily obsessed with a singular, gorgeous thing, able to think of nothing else. And as you stare into her blood-soaked face, watch a single drop of blood roll down from her eyelid, down her cheek, and drop off her chin. It drops onto the floorboards, just underneath the armrest of the recliner. Several drops of blood have pooled here, and you can't help but notice that the way the blood has splattered on the floorboard, the way the drops of blood have run together, it's almost the mirror image of an antelope. Horns and all, playfully leaping through a field. It's beautiful in its own way. Maybe there is something to this blood facial. And so rather than staring at her, you find yourself contemplating the floor, and the edge to your questions is lost as your voice begins to slow, your emphasis begins to drop off. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, yes, your photography. You said something about photography? Oh, yes, says April. Yes, I actually got started in 1996. See, digital photography was just starting to be a thing back then, and I thought, well, photography had come to the masses. No longer did you need to wonder about things such as composition or color theory. No, they have software that could do all of that for you. All you needed to worry about was capturing the subject, of telling the story. Mitch Cross. What are you doing as Valerie conducts the interview with April?
Just gonna look for devices that might be left lying around. Clearly this woman spends a lot of time on the internet and with technology, so anything related to that she might be using.
Yeah. I'll help along with that. Specifically, also, Cross is very sus about this whole blood thing and thinks it's not just coming out of nowhere. And it's looking for anything that might have any links to the occult.
Yeah. So, in that case, I will ask Cross to make a wits occult check while Mitch makes an intelligence technology check.
That's 3.
3.
3. So, Mitch, you're entirely hidden thanks to unseen presence, and the cameras are off. So, ignoring the ever-present murmurings of your beast, to gorge yourself on this banquet before you, you kneel down beside the couch, begin to look through the laptop. She's in the middle of streaming on Instagram, and you're lucky though. This laptop doesn't appear to only be for the purposes of her influencing. It's her personal, everyday device as well. She keeps it quite clean. There are folders containing hundreds upon hundreds of photos. To your eye, they're all incredibly generic. They're of G-Town landmarks, buildings, people in the street. But there's a couple that are shoved away in another folder called Personal, that you have a feeling aren't going to be published on Instagram. There's one of a dead magpie wedged into a power transformer on the top of a telephone pole. Its flesh has wasted away, and it's little more than putrid skin overhanging a skeleton at this point. Another photo is of a dog in the middle of an oceanside road, rendered flat, bloodied tire marks leading away from it. The third is of a mouse caught in a mousetrap, presumably taken right here in this apartment building. The prong of the mousetrap has impaled the mouse right through the neck. A line of blood leads out of the wound and splatters pooling on the wooden part of the mousetrap itself, congealing around the metal wire of the mechanism. Her internet browser is even more interesting. Buried, hidden in amongst her history, which mainly consists of Instagram searches, photography queries, websites where she's been browsing camera equipment. There are a couple of strange queries interspersed here and there. Elvis impersonator, Sip Sip Parade, missing, 1998. Antisocial personality disorder. How to know if you're a serial killer. Uncaught serial killers. Can police read Google searches? So on and so forth.
That one's great. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Cross, you're searching the apartment, trying desperately to find anything that could be linked to the occult. This is a woman who wears blood on her face, after all.
It's a reasonable association.
Reasonable association. The apartment, however, is mostly normal. Well, as normal as it would be for a place where someone like this lives. And you're about to resign yourself to the fact that you can't find anything, when in the background you hear Val absent-mindedly ask about her first camera. And you hear April's voice say, "Oh no, it wasn't a camera, love, it was a phone. I was using the camera function on the phone." It was a Nokia, I think. You notice carved in... You notice... Yeah, this is me trying to bait Ash as well as Cross, but
you're just targeting the photographer. It's very unfair.
You notice, carved into the floorboards under her bed, the edges of what is immediately obvious to you as a magic circle. There's drag marks leading from the edge of it to about halfway through the loft, indicating that she uses her bed to cover it, pushing her bed out into the middle of the room when she needs to access it to conduct whatever rituals she thinks she knows, and then pushing her bed back over the circle to hide it from visitors and to make sure it doesn't show up during her live streams. But you recognize these things when you see them, and you're immediately drawn to it. Getting down on your hands and knees, you peer under her bed, and sure enough, her attempt at a magic circle. How many dots in the occult do you have?
3 plus specialty and ghosts that I doubt would apply.
So, with 3 dots in occult, you know enough about magic, or at least the variation of it utilized by vampires. You've had enough tutelage from Mort to realize that this magic circle is nothing. It's bunk she read on the internet, probably picked up on some forum, and has no actual occult purpose. Which is just as well, because the rituals she's been conducting, in your opinion, are quite likely to not have any beneficial results, if any, at all. There are old bloodstains soaked into the cracks between the floorboards, pieces of what look like human hair and fingernail clippings scattered around various points of the circle, and in the very center of the circle, a faded Reebok shoebox. The design on it is quite outdated. It says, Reebok, best of 99, just under the lid. What do you do, Cross?
Open the box. Open the box.
Well, boy, howdy, I'm thinking I might open the box.
Yeah. So you grab the shoebox, slowly pull it out from under the bed, and as April continues talking about her photography in the background, well, see, you had to take a couple of hours to upload a photo back then, dial up and all. So I would make sure that I only took photos I knew were going to turn heads. None of these buildings or people. That's when... Oh, one of the very first ones I took, it was of this fishing boat floundering during a storm. I took it from Cunningham Pier and... Cross, you lift the lid off the Reebok box. And inside, you find several grainy photographs. They're not super high quality. It's obvious that April developed these herself. But you can just make out what they're depicting. The timestamps in the bottom right corner of each photo indicate that they were taken between 12:30 a.m. and 2:03 a.m. on the 1st of January 2000. The first photo you look at is of Elvis talking to Cleopatra. They look like they're about to kiss. The second photo is of Lucky, the bartender, dragging a kid in an orange hoodie out the front door. The third subject. Several photos of Elvis, dead on the bathroom floor, his blood strewn all over the tiles. And the very last photo in the stack? A selfie. April, with Elvis's blood smeared on her cheeks, smiling, doing her best attempt to look menacing.
Okay,
I've never heard of
sorry,
like
is
a-
Mitch in the room with me?
Mitch is, but he's searching the laptop.
And Cross is definitely going to bring Mitch's attention to this.
Till Mitch is done searching the laptop, and then you look over in the direction where you know him to be, raise your hand and beckon him. Mitch, do you join Cross?
If there's nothing else left in the laptop, then yes.
Yeah, seems like you found pretty much everything. You pass Val and April once again, and Val, at this point, I will ask you to make another manipulation performance roll, and you will have a penalty die on this one, as you are still distracted. You're running out of material, and every question you ask, the gap between them is growing longer and longer as it takes increasingly more pressing insistence from April to pull you out of your reverie and continue the interview.
Sorry, is that manipulation, persuasion?
Or performance.
Or performance?
One penalty.
Well, I'm going to rouse to add an extra 2 dice.
Yep.
That's a fail. So Val gets up to 3 hunger. This is
3
going very well.
hunger. Yeah, you're in a room full of blood.
Yep. And that leaves me with 2 successes. I'm going to
2
willpower that.
Willpower, go ahead.
There we go, 4 successes.
4 successes. Nokia, you say, and then you tear yourself away from the blood spatter, peer into her face for just a moment, looking into her eyes and say, Instagram, fitness, how did you get started in that? I read a guide online. See, don't ask me how I found it, but I found this thing and it was saying drinking blood boosts your immune system. So I made a post about it, and, well, you know how the algorithm is. It went viral, and, well, that was the whole start of Vampire Week, says April, laughing gleefully.
Good God.
Mitch, you head over to Cross. Cross silently hands you the stack of photos. You start sorting through them. What's your reaction?
I don't even know how Mitch would react to that. I think he just looks at Cross with this intense look of like, this woman is insane and we should probably try to get out of here sooner than later.
Cross does not know how to read facial expressions, buddy.
So, I will point out
Mitch.
that both Mitch and Cross have high enough intelligence that you would say that the kid in the orange hoodie that's being dragged out of the bar by Lucky in one of the photos is most likely Barry Jr. You now have physical proof that he was there that night. The rest of the photos, well...
Cross is gonna snap photos of these photos with its phone.
Yeah. Make sure you frame each one perfectly and snap each one. It takes about 2 minutes to capture all of them. Then you place them back in the box and slide it back under the table, giving a shrug to Mitch. Anything else you'd like to do?
Okay. For my own curiosity, I want to see inside her fridge.
You're to see inside her fridge.
It's gotta be good, right?
Yeah. Does anyone want to grab the box, or are you sliding it back under the bed?
Yeah, let's take the box.
Yeah. Alright, so you
She's
hand
fucking nuts enough that what's she gonna do? She's gonna think she's misplaced it, and that'll be it.
You hand it to Mitch, and as he takes it, the box itself is swallowed up in his obfuscation, and it disappears into thin air. And as Mitch begins to make his way back to the door of the apartment to exfiltrate and wait for the rest of you outside, you make your way over to the fridge, Cross, and I'd like you to go ahead and make for me a Dex plus Stealth plus Obfuscate check.
It's a bad roll. Okay, I do have Silence of Death going.
Yes, so that's why you're adding Obfuscate to the roll.
Oh, good. Okay,
I'd be happy to, like, cough to try and cover it as well.
that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's clear I can see you, not obfuscated from
Yeah,
sight.
yeah.
Just sound.
So add an extra dice in that case.
Okay, that's ignore that result in the die thing, because that's not how that works. That's 2 successes.
Oh, that's 3, isn't it?
Yeah, 3.
Mm,
Added an
Yeah, no, I added the die.
well, I'll say it's an extra success, so make it 3.
Thank you, baby.
So, as you creep your way to the kitchenette, April yawns. She wipes some of the blood off her face, and she's just about to peer across the apartment in your direction when Val suddenly locks eyes with you, turns away, and loudly coughs. Oh, excuse me. What was that you said about that post you found? I didn't quite get that. I'm sorry. Looks like I have a bit of the sniffles. Goes around this time of year.
And Valerie would never be the kind of person to wear a mask.
No, she definitely wouldn't. And this is the exact distraction you need, Cross. You dart out into the kitchenette, grab the fridge, and yank. Luckily, April's talking loud enough that she doesn't hear the sound of the fridge's Velcro parting. The fridge door itself is quiet as you pull it open. What's your hunger at, Cross?
2.
2. Lovely.
That's such an ominous question.
So no need to roll for frenzy, but inside your beast stirs. If it were a cat, it would be sitting straight up, its ears pointing towards the sky, its eyes wide, as you smell the distinct, metallic, rusty smell of raw blood within the fridge. She has several blood packs stacked in the inside of the fridge. They're all labelled in her handwriting. Blood of April, don't touch. But perhaps most sickening of all is what's wedged on the shelf at the back of the refrigerator. An opossum. You could tell it was an opossum based on the shape of its skull. Somebody has skinned the thing. Skinned all of its fur and flayed the flesh down to the bone. Let the blood drip down into the vegetable cooler at the bottom of the refrigerator. And there's a yellow post-it note stuck to the side of the skeletal, flayed animal. Steeling yourself, you reach in, pluck it out, and see, written once again in April's flowery handwriting, practice, soon people.
What? Oh no! Exposition note. Okay. No, Cross does not say that out loud, Vinny. Although, no, I won't screw us over. I could see it doing that though. Okay. First of all, Cross is going to take that note out and pass it to Mitch. Secondly, it's going to put a couple blood bags in its backpack.
Yeah. So there's enough blood here that you could take an entire feed's worth of blood from her fridge if you like. Depends if you want to take it all or just some.
Make it look like she could just have lost track of how much she's got in there.
Alright, so you take a couple bags, enough to say 2 points of hunger. Slide them into your bag.
Last of all, Cross is going to retreat out of line of sight, so close the door silently and retreat to out of line of sight, and send Val a text to the effect of, "This is not good. Get out when you can."
Yeah. And then you make your way to where Mitch is, standing by the entrance of the apartment, and duck out, joining him in the corridor outside to wait for Val. Val, your phone beeps, distracting you from your reverie. You're not sure what April's been talking about. You've long since tuned it out. Her voice has become a subtle hum in your ears as you contemplate how detailed and intricate the bloodstains on the floor are, You reach for your phone, and there's a message from Cross, and it simply reads, "Not good, get out now."
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I think even Cross is a little unsettled by all of this.
That's such a pain for Val because she really wants to get some information. April's right there, and with the right crying and the right words, she could probably get something out that would help them. So she's going to be quite reticent to leave.
Cross would probably follow up. Dangerous. You could probably handle it, but be careful.
Depends how you speak to her.
Well,
The premonition you
Well,
had
April-
was still lingering in your mind, fainter now, but that image of April smearing blood over her face in Sip Sip Hooray's bathroom is still there. And something is telling you to press on. Find out what this means. She's right in front of you. She's got something to say. And Val never backs out. Not when there's a story to be found.
That is correct, even if it's not good for her. She's gonna text back saying, just while April's got her eyes closed and covered in blood or whatever, she's gonna quietly text, "Stay nearby, I won't be long."
So anyway, says April. Well,
It's quite
obviously,
an
I apologize for that. That's a leap, but that's not what she's doing. April finishes off the sentence with a flourish, saying, "So anyway, I got banned from the hospital after that. They wouldn't let me in to take photos of sick people anymore, but oh man, the likes I got on that. I called it the Ravishers of Age. Oh, and that about covers it, I think. Pretty much from then till now. Is there anything else? I'm sure Jeanette would want you to leave sure no stone is unturned."
Valerie continues scratching away little doodles in her notebook, making it sound like she's taking very serious notes about this. But she's not. Now is when it starts. Now is when the real pressing begins. Oh, thank you so much for your time, April. I'm sure Jeanette will be very pleased with what I write. We've got some really good stuff here, actually.
She wipes the last bit of blood
This is page 2 material, I think.
She wipes the last bit of blood off her eyes, and they flutter open, and she says, "Oh, I didn't point it out before, but you really have to teach me your makeup routine. You look radiant," she says, as her face fixates on yours.
Oh, it's probably a stardom or something. Valerie's not full of herself, but she does know that she's quite well known, and isn't afraid to know that she's quite well known. Look, right, now come the other questions. I did come here to find out about you and your business, but I also have some quite off-the-record questions.
Off the record?
Yeah, off the record.
Oh, well, look, you've been so lovely with everything you're including about my Instagram. Yeah, sure, let's have a chat. I'm sure you want to ask all about the blood facials, am I right?
The image of Sip Sip Hooray flashes through her mind again. Something like that. Before the scene continues, I'm going to turn on lie detector.
Yeah.
And make a roll for that, because this is where it gets serious.
This is where it gets serious.
Let me figure out what the roll for that is.
Oops, I'll just look that up.
There it is. So it's intelligence or specs
Yes.
versus composure subterfuge.
Exactly. Intelligence or specs, please.
Oh, and I still have the -2, don't I?
Yes, you do.
That's gonna be a pain. Okay, I'll risk the hunger for boosting that as well, I think. It's worth it.
Did you get hungrier?
No, thank God.
Lucky.
Okay.
If you went up to hunger 4, I would have made you roll for frenzy.
Yeah, this would have been really bad. Okay. Wow, that's a total failure anyway.
She's offering to you. Drink her, you fool!
Oh no, I passed the rouse check, but
Yeah.
fail on the lie detector entirely. I might. No, whatever. I won't use it. That's fine.
You fail on the lie detector. You see her aura. It's flashing multiple colors, stained with blood, just like the floorboards. That antelope frolicking in the fields. Quite beautiful in a strange way. How random chance has caused these drops of blood to mingle in such a way. It's really quite fascinating.
This is driving Val insane. She's not going to get the story she wants if it keeps going like this. The only way she can think of dealing with this is a pass for fresh air, maybe. Having the conversation out on the balcony, getting away from this. She can't stop looking at it, and she has to get this done right. So she propositions to April, "Oh, the blood and everything in here is making it smell awfully strange. I think I need some fresh air. You know, the cold and everything that I've got at the moment. Can we step outside onto the patio to speak?"
Be suggesting what is colloquially referred to as a smoko, says April mischievously. I'll have you know, I never smoke. My body is a temple. An Aztec temple, baby, she says as she reaches into her pocket, standing up, fishing out a pack of cigarettes and proffering you one.
Oh my good God. Valerie's going to very politely put her hand up and decline, but pull out her own much more expensive pack of cigarettes and pull out one for herself.
Yeah, fresh air. Alright, sure. This way, she says as she leads you across the studio towards the bay window next to the bed. She slides open the sliding door and leads you out onto the balcony, and you can almost see the waterfront here. You can just see the lights. The lights in the distance sparkling on the infinite blackness, but it's far enough away from the waterfront that mostly you just get a view of the street down below and the cars rolling by. April takes a drag of her cigarette, adding the smell of tobacco to the smell of raw blood, perhaps disturbing your beast even more. Then she says, "Okay, so, off the record. Let me guess. You want to know about Elvis, right? Sip, sip, hooray. Everyone saw the 2000 New Year's photos that I put up. Everyone knows I was there."
Has Valerie seen these photos that she's put up on Instagram or wherever she puts her things?
No, but Cross and Mitch did see them at the police station, and they're mostly just photos of the night in question, not including any discriminating details.
Right, okay, so it's the non-incriminating things.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, Valerie's going to kind of pussyfoot around the question. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about your involvement with it. I remember that you were there on the night. What can you tell me that you remember about then?
Go ahead for me, Valerie, and it's a good thing you stepped out of the blood-soaked room, make for me a charisma persuade check and add your presence.
Messy crit.
Messy crit.
This is going so badly.
You know she was there. She looks back at you and she says, "You know I was there? I don't quite recall you. I don't think Maybe you weren't as famous back then, and You grab her by the scruff of her collar, push her towards the edge of the balcony, and snarl, baring your fangs as you nearly tip her over the edge, and you say, "You were there. I saw you there, and you know what happened. Tell me now, or I swear to God I will drop you into the street below." And with every word, your beast roars its approval. Yes, yes. She invites you into her home, drenched in blood, and then she insults you. Drop her, drop her. Okay, April says, raising her hands. Pull me up. Pull me up. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Better, you spit, as you pull her up onto the balcony. And for a few seconds that to you feels like eternity, do your very best to fight back your beast as you feel your fingers clenching into a fist, as you feel the blood pumping through your body, and something in your head seems to spark an instinctual reaction to her, a reaction to push this woman over the edge and be done with her. Almost like a threatened animal, almost as if you can read for a moment her very soul, and whatever your beast sees there frightens it. I was there, she says, yeah. And look, I saw the guy, I saw Elvis. I found the body. I just found the body. I took photos, because it was a cool scene, and then I went back to partying, and then I never came forward because, hey, you come forward with photos of a body and try having the cops believe that you're the one who found it there, right? I don't know who killed Elvis, and I have never killed anyone before, okay? Wasn't me.
Oh, I really wish I had lie detector on for that, because I feel like she probably has. As a player.
And as a storyteller, I will tell you, it's a lie. She has killed, just not Elvis. She didn't kill him.
Yeah, I didn't get the feeling she had. She's crazy and stupid. Doesn't mean that she did it. No, Valerie meets her gaze and says, "Look, I believe you, and I'm not going to turn you in. I could, but I won't. That won't get us anywhere. I'm trying to find answers about who did do this, and I have an idea who might have. Do you remember seeing this guy somewhere that night?" And she quickly pulls up a picture of Barry Jr. from her phone and kind of holds it up in the dim light.
Her eyes flicker with recognition. She opens her mouth as if she's deciding whether to tell you something, and then she stops herself, and then she looks over her shoulder at the balcony rail, remembers your threat. She swallows and she says, nodding her head, "He was there, and I saw him. I saw him sneaking out of the bathroom, and he was covered in blood. He was going to wash it off, and he saw me with the camera, and the look he gave me, I didn't take a photo of him. I knew it would be the last thing I did if I tried. That look he gave me, and what he did to that man, it stayed with me. I know he's the one who did it."
So why didn't you call the police then? If you saw the body and you didn't want to fess up in case they thought it was you, why didn't you call the cops and point him?
Because if they went after him, he would know that it was me who sent them, she says, all in a single breath. And I know he would find me.
You know that he would find you. How much do you know about him?
She thinks for a moment, but then she sighs. That's the funny thing. I don't know anything. I don't even know his name. Just the way he looked at me. It was... Oh, I haven't been the same since. The way he looked at me, it's like he left something in me. And I know how he thinks. I know how he thinks. And I know he would find me.
And you still feel this way tonight?
She nods, saying nothing.
Ooh, that's very curious. As a player. Interesting. Look, I know you didn't get any pictures of him at the scene of the crime, but did you get any pictures of him there that night in any of the other photos you took? This could change the course of an entire investigation.
She thinks
And
for
it'll
a
be front
moment.
page news.
She thinks for a moment, and then she shakes her head. No, I deleted them. And that's a lie, of course, because Cross and Mitch have that photo, but Val doesn't know this.
Yeah, without lie detector, there's no way to push her on that. Val always assumes that someone's lying, but without having the aura reading, she's not just going to go around willy-nilly. I could, actually. I forgot that was even a thing.
Yeah, you could do a wits insight.
Yeah, would you mind if I did?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is success of 3.
You have a feeling she didn't delete them. But you have no proof, and if you pushed her on it, it would simply be because you think something's not right.
Val's going to rely on Mitch and Cross for that, I think. If she pushes her on this and it's not right, she knows that she's going to ruin the entire relationship. She's already almost thrown her off the balcony, like, for goodness sake. Like, it's amazing she's even talking at all. She can't jeopardize this any further.
Please, no more, she says, sinking her head. I've told you everything I know, and when I think back and I see his face, he was more like animal than human. His eyes like a lizard, and she shudders. I can't. No more, please. I have to get back to my stream.
There's a little part of Val's gut that itches to push further and drain all the information she possibly can out of her, but it's not worth it. She knows rationally that it's just not going to pan out if she does. So instead, she kind of just slowly slides open the balcony door and ushers her back inside and says, "All right, I think that's enough. I think I can work with that. Obviously, I'll leave your name out of things, and yeah, I think this will work."
She nods silently as she sits down into her blood-soaked chair. You turn and make your way towards the front door, to the corridor where you know Mitch and Cross are waiting. And as you leave, I'd like you to make a wits awareness check, please.
That's 3 successes.
You hear her muttering under her breath as you pull the door shut behind you. Balcony, balcony, falling, pushing. Push them off the pier. Yes. And then you're standing in the hallway, the door shut behind you, shutting out this monster. It's at this point, Valerie, just as you're about to shudder from the sense that something is terribly wrong, your phone vibrates. You reach into your bag, fish it out, And there's a message from Sam Stokes. Come to the gallery. The snakes are waiting.
Val quickly responds with a little thumbs up emoji and sticks her phone back in her pocket. And usually, after a good grilling for a good story, she rouses the blood and flushes life into her system so she can really enjoy a smoke.
Yeah.
But oh, not this time. This is not right. This doesn't feel like a victory at all.
And the look on Mitch's face tells you you're not the only one who felt it.
Look, even Cross is looking pretty unnerved.
Yeah.
As they make their way to the elevator, Val's just going to try and collate as much information between all of them as she can.
Yeah. Cross
Everyone's up
and
to
Mitch
speed.
share what they've found. The photos, the magic circle, the contents of her fridge. And does Val have any reaction to that?
If she was human, she would probably go white as a sheet. But not being human, she stays white as a sheet. It's clear on her face that she had miscalculated.
But you do have evidence now. Unrefutable evidence that Barry Jr. was there. And as the elevator lurches and the doors slide open, admitting you once more into the night, it is time to meet the Setites. Would everyone like to end here, or would you like to press on and just do the Setite scene?
I got time.
I have time as well. Paradox and Vince, do you have time?
Yeah.
It is 3:30 a.m. here.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a bit tired.
You're a bit tired?
Okay.
Yeah. And I know Paradox has D&D, that's why I was asking. So I was planning to get the Setites done tonight, but the April scene did go on longer. So, as you step out of the elevator, once again past the board security guard, and step out into the humid January night, you find yourselves shuddering, as unbeknownst to you all, you've treated with a monster. Kindred aren't the only monsters of the night. The living, it seems, can be monsters too. In the distance, the G-Town clock tower begins to ring. 11 chimes. 11 p.m. Half the night is already over. Only a few more hours left. Will you find what you need? Will the Setites provide the missing piece? And what of the plastic surgeon? And what of Warlord Victor? Perhaps he was beckoned. But not beckoned by a mysterious phenomenon from the Middle East. Not beckoned by millennia worth of blood bonds and the ancient jihad. Perhaps he was beckoned by something more earthly. Someone more earthly. We shall conclude this story, Who Killed the King, next time in Lords of G-Town.